Just looks.
Oh, crap. You
It's just for you. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to our regular scheduled August 1st Board of Commissioners meeting. like to have I have not asked, but hopefully I'd like to have Commissioner Gardner lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance and Mayor Pro Tem Smith lead us in the invocation tonight. Thank you. Please stand.
Let's pray together. Lord God, thank you for another wonderful day that you've given us here at Fuquay-Varina. Lord, we're thankful for the opportunity we have to come together tonight to have a meeting where we discuss matters that affect all of our citizens, Lord. Father, I pray that you'll give us wisdom as we work through some of the issues that we'll face tonight. God, I pray for our nation right now that when we look at unrest around the world and still pandemic issues going on around the world, I just pray for those who are working on those issues to have the wisdom to try to figure out the best course of action for us to follow, Lord. God, I just pray now you'll be with us and that everything we do tonight be pleasing in your sight. We ask these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Please face the flag and join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank y'all. Our meeting protocol. At this time, I ask that Town Manager Mitchell review the meeting protocol for public participation as it relates to this meeting. Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, board members. It's good to be with you on this first day of August. Tonight's meeting is both in person and virtual. Tonight's meeting contains a public comment period and one scheduled public hearing. Due to the hybrid nature of the meeting, the public will be invited to comment both in person and virtually via the Zoom virtual meeting platform. When it is the appropriate time, Mayor Massengill will first call on those wishing to address the town board that are attending in person, followed by those wishing to address the town board via the Zoom platform. All attendees that have appeared in person this evening to address the town board during the public comment period should provide your name and address on the registration sheet by the podium prior to the public comment period beginning. All attendees that have joined the meeting virtually have joined muted. If those joining virtually wish to address the town board during the public comment period, they will need to notify the town host that they wish to speak. For the public's benefit that may be joining the meeting via the Zoom platform, please press the raise hand button in the Zoom application to notify the town host that you wish to address the board. Please press *9 to raise your hand if you're joining by telephone. After an individual has raised their hand, they will enter into a queue. When the time for public comment or a public hearing begins, Mayor Massengill will ask the town host to recognize individuals that have notified the host that they wish to speak by calling out their name or the last 4 digits of their telephone number. Individuals will be unmuted one at a time and invited to address the town board. We ask all those wishing to address the town board to begin their comments by clearly stating their name and address for the public record. The public is asked to keep all comments to 3 minutes so that all that wish to speak can be heard in a timely manner. And this concludes the protocol for tonight's meeting.
Thank you. First item of business on our agenda is the approval of the minutes from the July 11th, 2022 regular scheduled meeting. Is there a motion?
Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of the July 11th, 2022 Town Board of Commissioners regularly scheduled meeting as presented and recommended with no changes.
We got a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. First presentation we have tonight is Recognition, National Alliance on Mental Illness. Wake County 2021 Departmental Officer of the Year and 2021 Wake County Officer of the Year, Police Officer Alexander Wrench. More information about this item will be presented by Police Chief Medina, Criminal Justice Specialist Richard. Chief.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor and fellow commissioners. This time I'd like to call Lieutenant Scotty Hinton up here to give you a little bit of background of the incident that was recognized. And I also like to have Eric Johnson with Alliance Health to give you the process of how they go about selecting different nominations for the Crisis Intervention Officer of the Year.
Good Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for allowing me the time to speak with you tonight on behalf of one of my very exceptional officers. I'm in charge of the CIT program as the coordinator for our agency. And I'm pleased to inform you that Officer Alexandra Wrench, on the night of December 9th, 2021, at 11:59 p.m. or thereabouts, responded to a very distressed subject by the name of Ashley. She's approximately 21 years of age. She was hysterical. She was borderline suicidal. She was extremely out of sorts and in a very bad place mentally. We were first contacted by neighbors. We were then contacted by a therapist that she was on the phone with. We followed up by sending officers out to the house. Officer Wrench was one of the first on scene who established contact with her. She followed up to find information out from a boyfriend that was on scene to find out that she had never had these thoughts before, had never been in this situation before, had never really had any mental health problems in the past. As this call evolved and went further, things started breaking down a bit, but the rapport continued to grow. And Officer Wrench finally got to the point where she could introduce back into the situation the therapist. And she was able to talk the caller, Ashley, into allowing her to FaceTime the therapist on her cell phone, get the therapist face-to-face with her on a FaceTime conversation, and the three of them to sit there and talk and work things out. During this call, Officer Wrench mediated and went back and forth and helped Ashley to calm down and to control her anxiety a little bit on the scene while the therapist worked through her issues with her. This worked out to where what was going to be an emergency commitment turned into a voluntary commitment and then later de-escalated into this young lady getting in the car with her mother and voluntarily going to seek mental health and wellness treatment. We've not had any further calls from her. I've checked our computer-aided dispatch system, and currently we've not been back to that address again, and they still reside there. When we've dealt with her in the past, just in passing and seen her in the community, she's spoken very highly of Officer Wrench and says that she probably saved her life that night. I'd like to say the call ends there, but it doesn't. The therapist saw such a active and useful model in what they did that night that she's going to step further and partnered with a professional grant writer and is seeking grant funding to work with us as an agency to create a program to put electronic gear of some sorts, be it an iPad or cell phones, in the hands of our officers to where when we respond to domestic violence calls and crisis intervention calls, we can have a 24-hour therapist on call for us to put them face-to-face with somebody on scene right then. We can put a therapeutic counselor in their face-to-face with them, be it domestic violence or be it a crisis call. And in the future, this looks to be a program that could spread throughout southern Wake County and be something that is multiple agencies involved. We're still working with them at this time. It's still very much in the early infancy stages. We're just there at this point to lend an ear, offer our support. This is completely being done by the therapist and the grant writer at this time, with hopes of bringing us on at a later time when they have grant funding for it. With that said, we nominated Officer Wrench for Fuquay-Varina's Officer of the Year for Crisis Intervention Team. And at that point, it goes before the Alliance team to review. And I'm going to stop talking at this point. I'm sure a lot of y'all are thankful because I'm typically long-winded.
No.
And I'll step away and let you speak with my counterpart from Alliance and let him explain further what goes into this award and the significance of it.
So good evening, everyone. As Lieutenant Hinton mentioned, the CIT award, CIT, I should back up and talk a little bit about what CIT is, and that's Crisis Intervention Team. And it was a type of training that was developed out of Memphis, Tennessee, after a call that went the wrong way, and unfortunately, a person that was in crisis died. They developed this model of training officers and first responders to go out to a scene and use de-escalation skills. And so Wake County was one of the first counties in the state of North Carolina in 2005 that adopted this training. It was a partnership with NAMI, which is the National Alliance of Mental Illness, and at the time, Wake County Human Services, and then all of our local different police departments. We've been doing that training since 2005. There were some changes with mental health reform about 10 years ago, and so Alliance Health started to be a partner instead of Wake County Human Services because of the divestiture. So we've been doing CIT training since 2012. We've been working real closely with Fuquay-Varina Police Department and doing this training multiple times throughout the year. Annually, we do a CIT Officer of the Year. We do a banquet to celebrate all of the officers who have been trained as CIT officers. It's a 40-hour training. They wear a pin on their uniform so that people know that they're a CIT officer. So it's a really important thing to have that pin, to know that they're identified as a CIT officer. People look for that, and knowing that an officer is coming out to help them and not to arrest. It's really like a badge of kind of honor to have that. And so every year what we do is we ask for each department to submit a nomination for an Officer of the Year. And then we take all of the departments and we pick one officer for overall Wake County Officer of the Year. So there's a lot of different officers that are nominated for this. So to be named CIT Officer of the Year is a really big deal. And having heard what this nomination is and everything that she had done on that call and afterwards is exactly what CIT is. So I just want to say congratulations, and we have a model officer here today.
So one of the things that the NAMI Association did is, like you said, we had a dinner, it was about 2 months ago, if I'm not mistaken.
Last one.
And we were able to take the 2 certificates and put them in a nice frame here so she can look at it, and definitely wanted to recognize her as 2021 Officer of the Year and then 2021 Departmental Officer of the Year. And at this time, we'd like to present this to Officer Wrench so she can enjoy and show this with pride.
Please. First off, let me tell you, congratulations and thank you for your service to Fuquay-Varina. This is incredible. You've been with us just 2 years now, and 1 year a crisis intervention trained officer, and what you've been able to accomplish and do in our community. Mental illness is not just in Fuquay-Varina, but it's a global issue across our world right here. And you receiving this training and being nominated and receiving this award right here in Wake County makes Fuquay-Varina, it makes me and your whole board very, very proud of you and thankful that you choose to work in Fuquay-Varina. I have this mayor's coin I'd like to give you as a commendation to thank you for what you've done for being a dash more in Fuquay-Varina, and I give you this coin out of appreciation. Next item I'm going to substitute and put on our agenda before public comment is we have in Fuquay-Varina the Growers Market, which is a very successful growers market in Fuquay-Varina. It has a lot of participation from people throughout our community. You know, as we all know, Fuquay-Varina's roots is agriculture and roots from farming. And so we have a great market here in Fuquay-Varina, and it's been very special to our town. It's a town-sponsored event that the town sponsors and supports right there too, along with the Chamber of Commerce. And coming up this week is a recognition for farmers markets. And so I have a mayoral proclamation I'm going to read and enter into the record at this time. Whereas the town of Fuquay-Varina farmers provide citizens with access to healthful, locally, and regionally produced foods through farmers markets, which are expanding and evolving to accommodate the demand for a diverse array of agricultural products. And whereas farmers markets and other agricultural direct marketing outlets provide infrastructure to assist in the distribution of farm and value-added products, thereby contributing approximately $9 billion each year to the U.S. economy. And whereas farmers markets serve as significant outlets by which small to medium, new and beginning, and veteran agricultural producers market agricultural products, generating revenue that supports the sustainability of family farms and the revitalization of rural communities nationwide. And whereas we recognize the importance of expanding agricultural marketing opportunities that assist and encourage the next generation of farmers, generate farm income to help stimulate business development and job creation, build community connections through rural and urban linkages. And whereas farmers markets are managed by dedicated community leaders who are driven by shared values to support local farmers, feed their neighbors, and create a healthy town. And whereas farmers markets, like ours, strengthen community spirit by bringing people together in a vibrant atmosphere. And whereas the town of Fuquay-Varina is proud to partner with the Fuquay-Varina Growers Market to promote healthy eating, active living opportunities, and connections between local farmers and community members. Now therefore, I, Blake Massengill, Mayor of the town of Fuquay-Varina, North Carolina, do hereby proclaim the week of August 7th through 13th, 2022 as Farmers Market Week in observance of the National Farmers Market Week in the town of Fuquay-Varina. Rose, if you put this in the proclamation, please. If anybody in this room has not attended the Growers Market here in Fuquay-Varina or been there before, it is really an incredible place with supporting a lot of local businesses and local agricultural needs, and not just food, but arts and crafts too. So I encourage you to attend there if you have not been there before. Next on our agenda is the public comment period. At this time, the town clerk will first call on individuals that are in attendance and have registered to address the town board prior to the meeting. Following those who are in attendance, the IT director will call on individuals that have virtually raised their hand via the Zoom app or by telephone. The public comment period is a time for the public to address the town board about any matter that is not the subject of a scheduled public hearing. Those speaking are asked to begin by clearly stating your name and address for the public record. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes in order that all who wish to speak may be heard in a timely manner. Rose, do you have anybody signed up?
There are none.
Mr. IT Director Scott, do you have anybody signed up?
No, sir.
Okay, thank y'all very much. Next item on our agenda will be the first public hearing. Public hearings are a time for the petitioner to present his or her request and for the public to give input and voice their favor or opposition to the request. If you wish to speak and are physically in attendance, please step forward to the podium one at a time. Provide your name and address on the registration log at the podium, and clearly state your name and address for the public record. Following those speaking who are physically in attendance, the IT director will call on individuals that have virtually raised their hand via the Zoom app or by telephone. Those wishing to address the town board will be unmuted one at a time. Those speaking are asked to begin by stating your name and address for the public record. We ask all those addressing the town board to please limit your comments to 3 minutes in order that all who wish to speak may be heard in a timely manner. First public hearing is item 7A, Fuquay-Varina Pedestrian Plan, Town of Fuquay-Varina, CTA 2022-06. More information about this agenda item will be presented by Planning Director Davison.
Thank you. I am submitting the official abstract and supporting documents into the official records of the town. The 2013 Community Pedestrian Master Plan adopted in 2014 is the current ordinance that provides a comprehensive framework of recommended pedestrian improvements in conjunction with a series of programs to educate and encourage pedestrians and motorists in Fuquay-Varina. This plan and the proposed amendment were made possible through a grant awarded in 2021 by the Ncdot Bicycle and Pedestrian Planning Grant Initiative, with matching funds provided by the town. It is meant to establish a long-term vision for pedestrian access that helps improve pedestrian infrastructure in Fuquay-Varina and foster a walking culture through related programs and policies. The pedestrian plan is a living document meant to be revisited and amended as necessary as the community continues to grow. Today we have our consultant, Steve with Alta, here to present the plan.
Thank you. All right, just make sure I have this thing. All right, thank you all for your time this evening. My name is Steve Zimofsky. I'm with Alta Planning and Design. I was the consultant that got to work on this project, and I was the project manager on our side, working with town staff. I'm going to go through some of the highlights of the pedestrian plan. Feel free to ask questions as I go along. First thing I'd like to mention is that we had a steering committee that was formed of multiple folks from different downtown departments, Wake County staff, several residents that helped guide the plan. We had 3 committee meetings throughout the process. And, oh, thank you, appreciate that. And we work closely with the town planning department, including Pam and Allison Wiley. And then, as Pam mentioned, this was funded through the Ncdot Planning Grant Initiative. So we also had representation from Ncdot on the steering committee. They also review the plan in detail, and their comments have been incorporated into the plan. Some of the big picture items of the plan document itself, the vision is really connectivity for walkability everywhere you are in town, no matter whether you want to go to school or going to one of the downtown cores, going to a job. No matter where you're going, the long-term vision is have walking be a choice in that option. The overall goals, connectivity is the big word, is filling in the gaps in the pedestrian network. But improving safety at the same time, improving community health, promoting equity, creating a positive economic impact, access to natural areas. All these things are components of our overall quality of life that we want to enhance. The planning process itself, we had an existing conditions section at the beginning of the process where we analyzed the existing network, looked at local data. We had a project website through the Let's Talk FV platform, and had a comment form and interactive map where citizens could leave us feedback. And then some of the big items, recommendations-wise, in the plan, infrastructure recommendations. There are a lot of pedestrian projects that are currently in development, which is exciting. And so building on that, we identified some priority projects to help fill in the gaps beyond those projects that are currently in development. And we also identified some safe routes to schools and safe routes to parks connections that can help fill in some of those gaps between our neighborhoods and our schools and parks. And then complementing infrastructure recommendations, we have program and policy recommendations as well. So Chapter 1 provides an overview of the planning process and some of the background. You'll see information in there on the value of walkable communities as it relates to health, accessibility, mobility, economic impact, safety. Chapter 2 is the existing conditions analysis. You'll see information in there on the existing network, pedestrian crashes, where they've been happening, the equity analysis that we ran, the plan review, and analysis of opportunities and challenges around the town, as well as the public outreach summary. So we had over 200 comments submitted on the online interactive map, which is excellent. Over 400 responses on the online survey. We also attended the Celebrate Fuquay event last October, which was awesome. That was one of the best attended events. I do a lot of these projects around North Carolina, and this is one of the best attended public outreach events. And speaks well to the effort that the planning staff put into that. Chapter 3 is where you'll see the infrastructure recommendations. So the nuts and bolts of a pedestrian network, of course, are sidewalks, intersections, greenways, side paths. Side paths are just multi-use paths that are along a roadway corridor, basically the same thing as a greenway, just along a road. And for the priority projects, Campo's LAP prioritization criteria was an important consideration in selecting those projects. That's a key funding opportunity for pedestrian projects for the town. And so some of those items that went into consideration into selecting projects included connectivity, if it's a missing link in the network, safety, if it's related to a pedestrian crash or near a pedestrian crash, supported in public feedback, close to destinations such as parks, schools, the downtown cores, connects to the equity analysis, high social vulnerability areas in a previously adopted plan. The first project out of the 5 priority projects that were identified includes some intersection improvements in the downtown cores. The second project that was identified is finishing those gaps over the railroad crossings. And then we had several projects to fill in some of the gaps, including the Lincoln Heights connectors, so Lincoln Heights Elementary School, the adjacent neighborhood, the adjacent parks, William Freeman Park and Action Park with connectivity implications towards the downtown cores. The Depot Greenway extensions over on the east side, trying to bridge that gap between Honeycutt Road Park and the Parker Station development and the sidewalks that exist on the eastern side of the town, filling in gaps on Old Honeycutt Road, and also trying to make a complete linear greenway corridor from Honeycutt Park into the downtown cores. And then the Fuquay-Varina Middle School site, which is under development, that's going to have some pedestrian connectivity to the adjacent neighborhoods. And then there are several gaps that can further connect those neighborhoods to the parks nearby, Carroll Howard Johnson Park, South Park, with greater neighborhood connectivity woven in. Chapter 4 is where you see the program and policy recommendations. In the upper right hand of this slide here, you'll see those specific recommendations. They're further detailed in the chapter, but becoming designated as a walk-friendly community is an important marketing and also monitoring tool to see how you're doing compared to other towns and with specific benchmarks. Adopting a Vision Zero policy and action plan is related to design and safety, specific to not just pedestrians, but all transportation users, motorists and bicyclists, trying to work towards a more safer network. Safe routes to schools and parks action plans. Fuquay-Varina actually has a really good template for that. Several years ago, Lincoln Heights Elementary did a safe routes to school plan, and has a lot of good engagement with parents and school staff, and recommendations on connectivity, but also programming and education. Pedestrian and bicycle count program. Just like we count cars on roads to help us make decisions related to roadway infrastructure, the same is important for walking infrastructure and biking infrastructure. Integrating pedestrian considerations into wayfinding signage, and then information on speed management resources as well. In the last chapter, implementation, really the focus is to really keep doing what Fuquay-Varina has been doing. As the town has grown so rapidly over the past decade, and even since the past plan, so much pedestrian infrastructure has been implemented because of good policy, working with the development community, working with Ncdot as developments are built and roads are built and reconstructed. Having pedestrian infrastructure baked into those is key in having community-wide connectivity. And so keeping the momentum on the pedestrian projects that are in development, there are several projects that are currently in the design phase. They might not be fully funded, but they're part of the way into the development phase. So it's important to see those through. And then strategically and proactively funding and building the priority projects, using the LAP program through Campo as a good opportunity, and also continuing to work with Ncdot developers. And then furthermore, long-term, as the network continues to build out and connectivity happens around town, there's a comprehensive network that provides guidance for opportunities that may arise in the future. And then implementing the programs and policies to complement that infrastructure are some of the key aspects of this plan overall. And so lastly, there's an appendix with lots of information as well, design resources. There's lots of great guidance nationally at the state level on best practices for walking infrastructure. Appendix B, funding resources. There are a lot of resources out there from the federal, state, local, private, nonprofit sector that we see that can be potential opportunities for funding for walking facilities. Appendix C, further information on public outreach and comments that we received on the interactive map. And then the comprehensive network maps, zoom-ins are found in Appendix D. And lastly, we have cost estimate sheets for the priority projects that were identified in the plan. And with that, I want to say thank you very much again. I appreciate y'all's time and happy to answer any questions.
How do you recommend, or Adam, maybe comment for your Pam, prioritization of these different projects right here? Grants, which ones will score the best through grants and coming up with a plan that way, or what do you recommend?
Yeah, I think in large part that will be how we will give focus to the prioritization, just like for transportation projects, those that we can perhaps successfully score well on, we'll recommend and suggest to the board that those be prioritized higher, and we'll look at those on an annual cycle. And then we also do have PAL bill funds that this board has historically set aside and dedicated some annual funds each year to trying to chip away at our pedestrian goals as well. So between PAL bill resources and what opportunities we have at the grant level, we'll prioritize and start making headway on this plan, just as we did on our 2013 plan.
Probably one of the areas that I've heard the most talk about need on pedestrian, which was in the plan right here though, is where railroad track goes through town that is, it's not been abandoned because the railroad still owns it, but it's out of service. They don't use it at all. It's grown up with weeds. And it starts, as we know, goes on south side of town and continues up through to north side. And the biggest area it subdivides is at Dogwood, Lawrence, and Washington Street intersections right there. And I know the community has shared with me several times the frustration of being able to not cross through there, especially when some on railroads, trains are not driving through there. So anything we can do to get the railroad to help and DOT, you want to help partner with us to get some kind of crossing put in place right there, I think that needs to be.
Pedestrian crossing.
Pedestrian,
Yeah.
at the top of the list.
Yeah,
Right there.
and we're certainly have identified that as a goal as well. And here lately, we've also been informed that there may be some federal grant opportunities, not just LAP funding, but federal grant opportunities to pursue for pedestrian connectivity to link communities back together that have been divided by railroad infrastructure. And so we're pursuing those as well.
Great, excellent. Thank you.
We may end up coming back to the board and suggesting on some of these pedestrian accommodations with respect to the railroad that we begin, just as we've done in the past in some of our intersection projects, that we begin to allocate funds towards design, because if we can get the design out of the way, we likely have a better chance of scoring higher to compete for the construction cost for LAP funding. So we'll be internally evaluating that and looking to see where those opportunities exist and bring that back to the board.
It's, not only was this a presentation, it also, thank you, it is also a public hearing, so I should have probably reserved my comments to the end of that, but we'll go ahead at this time.
Hold on, wait, I'm not done.
Well, I was gonna say if the board members have any further questions for you, but go ahead, Pamela.
Just in closing, there's some additional information. As part of the Ncdot Bicycle and Pedestrian Planning Grant Initiative, this plan was required to be reviewed by Ncdot for clarity and grant fulfillment. The Fuquay-Varina Pedestrian Plan was submitted by the town's consultant, Alta Planning and Design, with the staff's approval to Ncdot on April 13th, 2022, and Ncdot completed their review on June 6, 2022. The review notes consisted of minor changes, and overall Ncdot was highly impressed with the plan's outcome, especially regarding the feedback received as part of the public input. At the July 18th, 2022 regular meeting, the Planning Board voted unanimously to recommend approval. The recommendation tonight, management and staff recommend approval of the proposed amendment to the 2013 Community Pedestrian Master Plan. The proposed Fuquay-Varina Pedestrian Plan is reasonable and in the public's best interest as it updates the pedestrian plan and further extends a long-term vision for a truly walkable community.
Thank you, Director Davidson. Does anybody have any questions, staff, before we open the public hearing? Okay, thank you. The hearing is now open. Does anyone attending in person wish to speak in favor of the Fuquay-Varina Pedestrian Plan?
Yes.
He's leaving, okay. Does anyone attending in person wish to speak in opposition to the Fuquay-Varina Pedestrian Plan? Does anyone attending virtually wish to speak in favor of the Fuquay-Varina Pedestrian Plan?
There are no hands raised.
Does anyone attending virtually wish to speak in opposition to the Fuquay-Varina Pedestrian Plan?
No hands are raised.
Hearing is now closed. Any further discussion or comments by the board, or what is the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Mayor, I have a couple of comments to make.
Commissioner Harris, go ahead.
I appreciate the plan. I think it's very important because historically there has been a separation due to infrastructure building and historical growth patterns here in Fuquay-Varina. One of the things that was identified as a priority was to identify missing links. And one of the missing links that I think is a safety issue, as well as so important to closing the gap, is that there are no sidewalks on Bridge Street from Judd Parkway to Lincoln Heights. And when you travel that way, when school is active, cars are lined up from Lincoln Heights all the way past Lincoln Heights, down Bridge Street. And I think that that's indeed a safety issue. I hope that through the encouragement with DOT, because I know that when asked about that before, historically Bridge Street has been said it's a state-maintained road. But I see this as an opportunity to advocate for that gap, since we're talking about pedestrian traffic. And I think it's so crucial that that area really be identified as a priority when it comes to connectivity.
I'll second that. I live in that neighborhood, and coming around that corner on Bridge Street, kids walk right there around that corner, and it is dangerous.
Very dangerous.
I will echo that sentiment.
I definitely think we got a lot of areas in our community. Those are that area that y'all I mentioned, the same area that I mentioned a few moments ago, are two areas that need attention for sure, very much. I feel very confident that our manager and our engineering department, planning department, are going to get us a lot of grants to get a lot of these connections done and look to prioritize in the future and get these projects built to be done hopefully sooner rather than later at that time.
I just have a question to staff based on your comments, especially around the area of funding. I know we have power bill monies. Can they be used for this purpose?
Not
Because
on-
it's state maintained?
That's correct.
What are the regulations as it relates to this being a state maintained road?
Yeah, so
How
you
we get it
can
done?
use Powell bill funds on town streets.
On
but
town
not-
streets.
Not on state streets or in the state right of way. And so, in order for us to, pretend, and Tracy is here, he might be able to add some context, but for brevity's sake, I would say that in order for us to be able to achieve a goal like the one you mentioned on Bridge Street, we would need to look for other grant opportunities, whether it was a LAP-funded project or, and I'm not sure how that would score, perhaps well, because it makes connectivity to a school. Typically, when you can demonstrate you're connecting to something that the public would tend to go to, like a school, you might rank or score a little bit higher. So grants of that nature, we're just going to, aside from DOT, out of the kindness of their heart, programming it into their state budget to do that new construction, which I think is more unlikely than likely. We're going to need to just pursue any grant opportunity we can to try to make that connection.
Okay, all right.
And that may be one place where we would be called upon to get some of the planning done, the design.
Yeah, perhaps. Certainly for a competitive standpoint, I think anytime you can get the design and potentially even right-of-way, I'm not sure what just off the top of my head, what type of right-of-way availability exists between where the sidewalk stops at Lincoln Heights and where Judd Parkway is, but When you can try to get the design and right-of-way out of the way, it lends towards scoring higher in the model, in the LAP model. But there may be also some other grant opportunities, and to be frankly honest with you, with ARPA funds and things of that nature that are still out there, not necessarily ARPA funds that the town has already received, but there are other ARPA funds that the state and federal government, still have that they're divvying out, some of which I'll speak to later on in tonight's meeting. There may be some opportunities to explore there as well.
Well, there was also a couple, well, time flies when you're having fun. I don't know how many years ago it really was. It seems like a couple of years ago, where Lincoln Heights got a walkability grant. I think.
That was the Safe Routes to School grant, I think, is what was being referred to earlier.
So making a connection to whatever was done under that project would be another selling point, I would think.
Yeah, I think so. And so, yeah, we certainly, as we've noted it, and as being a priority for the board, and we'll certainly go back and put our best thinking caps on to see how we might be able to achieve that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Any other comments or questions, staff? If not, I will entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, make a motion to approve CTA 2022-06, amendment to the 2013 Community Pedestrian Master Plan as presented and recommended by staff.
Have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Motion second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next item is our consent agenda. What is the board's pleasure on the items on the consent agenda?
Mr. Mayor, make a motion that we approve the consent agenda items 8A, B, C, D, E, F, and G as presented and recommended.
Second.
Motion and second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. No items removed from consent agenda. First administrative report we have tonight, item 10A, preliminary subdivision plat, Springvale Townhomes, subdivision 2021-08. More information about this agenda item will be presented by Planning Director Davison.
Thank you. I am supporting the agenda abstract and supporting documents in the official records of the town. The purpose of this agenda item is to consider a preliminary subdivision plat submitted by Piedmont Land Design, LLP, called Springvale Townhomes, located at 7100 Kennebec Road and 0 NC Highway 42. The submitted preliminary subdivision, Springvale Townhome Subdivision, is located at 7110 Kennebec Road and 0 NC Highway 42 on 9.57 acres in the residential medium-density zoning district. The preliminary subdivision plat proposes a townhouse development with 57 lots. The minimum allowable lot width is 18 feet, and the minimum lot width provided is 22 feet, with the average lot size of 2,156 square feet. A minimum 15% open space, or 1.44 acres, is required, and 44%, or 4.23 acres of open space is provided, with 25%, or 1.07 acres of open space available for active recreation, including a dog park and open grass play areas and community cornhole boards. Vehicular access to the project area is provided by project entrances to both Kennebec Road and NC Highway 42 and a roadway stub to the south. Kennebec Road is classified by the town's 2035 Community Transportation Plan as a 70-foot right-of-way and identified to be a 2-lane road with sidewalks. Kennebec Road is currently a 2-lane road without sidewalks. The current carrying capacity for Kennebec Road is 11,000 average daily trips. 2020 Ncdot traffic analysis located at the subject property for Kennebec Road indicate a volume of 4,100 average daily trips. NC Highway 42 is classified by the town's 2035 Community Transportation Plan as a 120-foot right-of-way and identified to be a 4-lane median divided road with 10-foot side paths. NC Highway 42 is currently a 2-lane road without pedestrian accommodations on the south side, but the recently developed Willow Springs Dollar General store installed half the future roadway section and a side path along its frontage on the north side of NC Highway 42. The current carrying capacity for NC Highway 42 is 11,800 average daily trips. 2020 Ncdot traffic analysis approximately 1.25 miles west of the subject property indicate a volume of 10,500 average daily trips. Public water is available, and the developer will extend the sewer to serve the subject property. The recommendation tonight is the proposed preliminary subdivision plat meets all town requirements, and management and staff recommend approval. At the July 18th, 2022 regular meeting, the planning board found the subdivision plat consistent with town requirements and voted unanimously to recommend approval. So the motion tonight is to approve the Springvale Townhome subdivision plat SUB PR 2021-08, located at 7110 Kennebec Road, as presented and recommended. I'm available for any questions.
Thank you, Plan Director Davidson. Any board members have any further questions or comments? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Mayor Massengill, I move that we approve the Springvale Townhomes subdivision plats SUB-PR 2021-08, located at 7110 Kennebec Road, as presented and recommended.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion second. All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next item on our agenda, administrative reports, item 10B. Municipal Agreement, Project Ordinance and Budget Amendment, Ncdot Project R-5705B, the amount of $118,923. More information about this agenda item will be presented by Public Utilities Director Wagner.
Good evening, Mayor and board members. The purpose of this agenda item is to consider the approval of the utility construction agreement for reimbursement for the portion of the costs of relocating utilities relating to the Ncdot R-5705B project. Ncdot's project R-5705B is designed to make roadway and infrastructure improvements to the portion of the North Carolina Highway 55 from North Carolina 210 to SR 4809. As part of this project, existing town water lines will be relocated. The total cost of the utility relocation is $473,103. Under North Carolina General Statute 136-27.1, North Carolina Department of Transportation must pay 75% of the utility relocation costs based on the municipal population. The town's portion of the funding for this project is 25%, includes $118,923 in engineering and construction costs. Ncdot has prepared the design build utility construction agreement, which includes the town paying a lump sum reimbursement amount of $118,923. A project ordinance is proposed to allocate the reimbursement funds for participation in this project. It should be noted that the final project cost will be based on the low bidder's unit of price once Ncdot lets the project. This bidding procedure could cause the cost of improvements to be higher or lower than the initial estimate. In the event of higher bidding costs, the project has contingency funds built into the project costs. If the project costs exceed the contingency funds, town staff will bring back updated project costs to the board for consideration. Town management and staff recommend approving the Ncdot Town Utility Construction Agreement establishing a project ordinance and budget amendment BA 23-05. There is a fiscal note attached to this, which is the budget amendment BA 2305, which appropriates the $118,923, which is the cost of utility relocation reimbursement in the town's enterprise fund unrestricted fund balance. The recommended motion is to approve the proposed utility construction agreement between the town of Fuquay-Varina and North Carolina Department of Transportation as presented and recommended, and authorize the town manager to execute the agreements. The agreements have been reviewed by the town attorney as to form and are in the best interest of the public. Approve the project ordinance for the utility construction agreement as presented and recommended, and approve the budget amendment BA 2305 to the utility construction agreement as presented and recommended.
Thank you, Director Wagner. Any questions or comments by board members? It's pretty straightforward typically when we have road improvement projects that come in to relocate our utilities. Now, I entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to approve the proposed utility construction agreement between the town of Fuquay-Varina and North Carolina Department of Transportation as presented and recommended, and authorize the town manager to execute the agreements. The agreements have been reviewed by the town attorney as to form and are in the best interest of the public. Number 2, make a motion to approve the project order for the utility construction agreement as presented and recommended. And number 3, approve the budget amendment BA 2305 to fund the utility construction agreement as presented and recommended.
Second, Mr. Mayor.
We got a motion, we have a second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Final administrative report tonight, item 10C. Memorandum of Understanding, Budget Amendment, and Position Authorization, Southern Wake Academy School Resource Officer. More information about this agenda item will be presented by Police Chief Medina.
Good evening again. The purpose of this item is to consider approval of the Memorandum of Understanding between Cooperation for Educational Partnerships in the town of Fuquay-Varina and an associated budget amendment and position authorization for the assignment of a school resource officer to Southern Wake Academy. Southern Wake Academy has approached the Fuquay-Varina Police Department and requested an assignment of a school resource officer to enhance security of the school. School leadership and myself have discussed financial and operational expectations, and Southern Wake Academy agrees to fully fund a dedicated school resource officer. The proposed memorandum of understanding, effective today, is provided for board consideration. The MOU is an agreement between Corporation for Educational Partnerships, the governing body of Southern Wake Academy, the town of Fuquay-Varina, and Fuquay-Varina Police Department for an assignment of a fully equipped school resource officer to include a fully equipped patrol vehicle for full-time assignment to Southern Wake Academy. Fuquay-Varina Police Department currently has SROs at 2 schools in town, Fuquay-Varina High School and Willow Springs High School, and this position would represent a third. In addition to the approval of the MOU, the town board would need to take action on authorizing a new police officer position and expenditures associated with this position. Town management and staff recommend approval of the MOU, authorizing the town manager to execute a contract with the Corporation of Educational Partnerships, approval of a budget amendment, and authorizing a new position to provide an SRO at Southern Wake Academy to be fully funded by Southern Wake Academy. There is a fiscal note. If approved, the town would enter a contract with Southern Wake Academy to provide a full-time school resource officer at the school. Under these terms of the contract, Southern Wake Academy agrees to fund 100% of the salary, benefits, operational, equipment, and capital costs associated with the officer. This amount will be paid by the beginning of the school year, and in future years it will be paid by August 1st. The cost for an officer in year 1 will be $157,450. However, this amount would substantially lower in future years that do not require the purchase of a new vehicle. Recommendation for the board. First motion, to approve the memorandum of understanding between the Corporation for Educational Partnerships and the town of Fuquay-Varina for providing a fully equipped school resource officer with a patrol vehicle to Southern Wake Academy, subject to town attorney's review to form. 2, authorize the town manager to execute a contract with the Corporation for Educational Partnerships to fund a school resource officer as recommended, subject to town attorney review as to form. 3, approve budget amendment BA-23-06 and authorize 1.0 new full-time employee police officer in the police department, and attach the memorandums and the actual breakdown of the budget amendment. And now I'll entertain any questions.
So this, chief benefit of this is schools came to us and willing to fully pay for us to have an additional
Yes, sir.
officer.
100% of the cost to have an officer from head to toe and all vehicles associated with that individual officer.
Pretty good deal.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. In light of everything that's going on in the country, they approached us and we had some dialogue, Captain Gathman and I, and had conversations with the school, and this is the terms that we came up with, and they're ready to move forward. And actually, I believe they're online listening to the dialogue as well. But definitely support it. It'll put additional officer in that school and just additional eyes on our kids. So
I think it's great. I wish more schools could have officers in the schools. I know conversations I've had with you and with management and other state level elected officials is how can we get funding, how can we get help to get more officers in more schools?
Yes, sir.
Keep everybody safe. And I'm glad that they have came to you, and I'm glad that you were able to work out something that,
Yes, sir.
that works in this case. And so this is great. How soon do you think you'll be able to hire and start, assuming this is approved tonight?
Well, we'll probably end up hiring from within, and then that transfer of that employee will translate to the street. But we should have somebody identified here shortly, and then by the time the school year starts, we should have somebody in there.
That's great. Have you heard anything from Wake County in regards to any of their other schools outside of high schools about wanting helping us with funding or anything?
No, but one thing I've learned with the town manager is the lower cost per officer, would like to definitely have some dialogue with them to see if we can get that increased, because if you put them together, you're only really paying for one, so they're only helping us with really one employee, even though we're, have two employees. But that'd be a conversation to have with them to see if they can expand that, or maybe consider doing a third or fourth additional school resource officer.
Well, like I said earlier, I appreciate you and I appreciate Southern Wake, y'all working together to get this done here. And say that's a great school there, and I know you'll have a great officer there at the same time. Any further comments or discussion by the board members?
I got one quick question. Is this a year-round school at Southern Wake, or is it?
It is.
I thought it was. Okay. All right, thank you. That's all I need.
I guess just in lieu, with everything going on, definitely conversations about SROs in the schools. I guess, on the backside of this, not saying I'm going against this by any means, but, making sure we continue to educate our community on the need for SROs and what they can and what they cannot do will ease some of our citizens. I still see a lot of different posts about, pro SROs or no SROs. So I think, which I think y'all are already doing and doing a great job at it, but just continue that education piece on letting people know what the need for SROs are in our community. And it goes for all of us as well, to continue that education to make sure that people know that, they're not there to harm our kids, but they're there to keep our kids safe. So that's one thing I see a lot, and it's still a big topic all over the state of North Carolina and even other states where they're definitely against SROs. So just continue that education part of everything, just to make sure our citizens know.
Yes, sir.
I'm glad we're going to have one there.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's excellent. I will entertain a motion from the board.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to, number one, approve the memorandum of understanding between the Corporation for Educational Partnerships and the town of Fuquay-Varina for providing a fully equipped school resource officer with a patrol vehicle, Southern Wake Academy, subject to town attorney as to form. Number two, authorize town manager to execute a contract with the Corporation for Educational Partnership to fund a school resource officer as recommended, subject to town attorney review as to form. Three, approve a budget amendment BA 23-06. And four, authorize one new FTE full-time police officer in the police department. That's my motion.
I'll second.
We have a motion second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, other business. 11A, manager's report.
Make sure my mic's on. It's been a few weeks since we last met, so there's a few things to update the board on, in addition to material that was included in your agenda packet. Just to report on a few of our departments, our Arts Center is presently taking or accepting, or in the process of auditions for the Nutcracker, which is the big annual performance, community performance at the Arts Center around the holidays. And Celebrate Fuquay-Varina festival vendor applications for the Artist Village are open, and if anyone's interested, they can find those applications on the Arts Center website. Another record-setting registration for fall youth sports. Fall youth sports ended 14.7% up from the previous fall. 3,509 youth sport participants have registered for fall youth sports. So that's across all of the different sporting activities we offer. But certainly a high level of participation. Our new athletics program specialist, very timely, Josh Harden, has come on board with the town, and new parks maintenance workers Stephanie Bowden, Gabriel Rhodes, and Chris Flynn recently joined the town. So certainly glad to have them on board as a part of our team. I'm going to make a brief statement, and then Scott, I'm going to cue you to load up a quick video if you'll be kind of thinking about that. As it relates to Public Works, Ncdot replaced a failing culvert on Stewart Street, and we have finally received our bucket truck in our Public Works Department. It was a long time coming, a supply chain issue that certainly kept us without. We were renting equipment and material to get us by with changing out banners and Christmas decorations. That was a tall order, a tall task during this past Christmas to get those decorations up and down in a timely manner because of the lack of the bucket truck, but we're excited about having our bucket truck here and on the road. Included in your agenda materials or in the agenda information was information on a public meeting that will be held on August 9th from 5 to 7 p.m. at the Mayor Pro Tem's Church, Hilltop Church, at 10212 Fayetteville Road. And this will be to get public input on intersection improvements along US 401 at Hilltop Needmore Road, Hilltop Road, Air Park Road, Lake Wheeler Road. There's going to be an alignment or a realignment project of Hilltop Road that it will have it tie in and connect to or across from where Lake Wheeler Road connects in with US 401, and some intersection operational improvements at the Hilltop Needmore, Air Park Road, US 401 conglomerate of intersections. We've got a lot, we talk about the town's 8 projects, local projects that we've got advancing in the works that we've been fortunate to have either LAP funding or state appropriations for. In addition to those 8 projects that we're managing, DOT is doing a lot of work in our jurisdiction or planning to invest a tremendous amount of funding. We've talked about it in the past, the US 401 bypass, the U5751 project, which is the 55 connector back to Judd Parkway, which I believe we had a presentation on at our last meeting. The NC42, Hilltop Road, Panther Creek, kind of intersection conglomeration there off 42, and now this project. So DOT is definitely investing in our community with some of these substantial transportation projects along the way. Transportation related, one of the educational services that we want to try to provide to our community is what we're doing to make improvements to intersections and transportations. And Calvin Harmon, our GIS, I'm not sure what his title is now under the FY23 coordinator, under the FY23 budget, our GIS coordinator is certified to fly a drone. The town has a drone, and we want to be able to make sure we do a good job of inventorying our assets, but we want to use it in other ways as well, educational ways. So Calvin has put together, no sound, I don't believe, but it's just a visual video on the, I believe it's the Judd Parkway intersection operational improvements. So Scott, if you'll roll that real quick. It's kind of a neat new thing we're going to try to do to educate our citizens on the roadway improvements. This is obviously Judd Parkway with some pointers here on existing sidewalk and new sidewalk labeled in green, proposed extended sidewalk. All of this is drone footage taken by Calvin in-house. We're not having to pay a consultant external to do this. You can see we're traveling up towards the community center in South Park. And here's going to be an operational improvement. Right now, there's an existing right turn only and a straight and left turn. All of you are familiar with this intersection and the challenges that it presents.
Yes, we are.
Here from another view, the left turn yields to oncoming traffic. We're going to hit play here in a second and show some illegal and dangerous use of right-only lanes to proceed straight. Here comes a vehicle into that right lane, and instead of making that right turn, a couple of them are going to go straight across, not what that lane is intended for. So the project improvements create 3 separate lanes for straight, left, and right turns. And here's an overlay of the improvements. So you can see those 3 lanes that are being added as a part of this and how they lay onto the existing road. Some new sidewalk will be extended with this project. And here traveling back north. Yeah, they're not, hopefully they're all doing the speed limit. They just look like they're going a little bit faster.
You're moving.
None of this will be put into evidence with the police department. So just some educational tools that we're trying to enhance and make it easier for the public to understand what we're going to be doing with these transportation projects. And we hope to be doing this same type of creative work with the other transportation projects that we have in the future as well. Thank you, Scott, for rolling that up, teeing that up. Our finance department is staying plenty busy. Fairly soon, we're going to be participating in the borrowing for Fire Station number 4. We actually have a scheduled application and hopefully approval tomorrow with the Local Government Commission on the borrowing for Fire Station number 4. Wake County Board of Commissioners will consider a interlocal agreement at their August 15th meeting. This will be to firm what we've already mutually agreed to, which is the county participating in reimbursement of debt, both principal and interest, on the fire service side. On the EMS side, if you'll recall, the EMS is a partner in this fire station as well. The county will actually reimburse us the entire lump sum of the EMS share of, assuming it's approved on August 15th, the EMS share of the fire station at the time of conclusion of construction. So we've worked those details out. The county will presumably approve it on August 15th at their meeting, and then on August 17th, we will aim to close on the loan with Truist Bank. So we're moving that forward. Once that's all buttoned up and done, we're turning a contractor loose and we're building a fire station. Long time coming. So that's going to be exciting for our community. The IT department is advancing numerous projects, most of which are included in your project status report, so I'll refer you to that. I don't want to spend a great deal of time talking necessarily about things that have been included in your project status report related to police and fire. I do want to make one statement about public safety and one statement in addition to that specific about the police department. Just today, the mayor gave the oath of office to 2 new police officers. And, at least for right now, Chief, right, we are 100% staffed in our police department. And that's something that not very many police agencies in Wake County can say right now. So we're very fortunate about that. Now, we've got some new hires that were approved with the fiscal year 23 budget that we'll be aiming to fill those positions. But as in terms of existing positions, not new ones that were approved in the budget, 100% staffed. I do also want to recognize both police and fire for their professionalism in handling the tragic event that occurred this past Friday evening. It was a multi-agency event, certainly one like none other that we've ever experienced, and hopefully it will be the last one of these types that we ever experience. And our thoughts and prayers go out to the young man's family who lost his life in that incident. But I can say with great confidence that both police and fire did a very professional and fantastic job of working collaboratively with multiple agencies to proceed forward with the search and rescue effort, but also to be able to make contact with the family and handle it with sensitivity and care. So do want to recognize them for that. Human Resource Department is extremely busy, as you can imagine, with job postings and hirings, as well as the final implementation of the pay plan. And I will just say that hopefully you've heard from some as well, but I've heard from many of our employees that are just very grateful and appreciative of the town board having adopted and implemented the pay plan, the pay study here for the town. It means a great deal to our employees, and I've had many of them stop me and just say, please pass along to the town board how much we appreciate their commitment to the employees and making us a priority. And so I do want to just share and pass along that information to you. Additionally, under public utilities, some good news. We were awarded a $400,000 grant for a collections system asset and inventory assessment and master plan, something that with as much growth as we are experiencing and we plan for in the future, having this opportunity to assess and inventory our infrastructure and have a master plan that we do have a CIP plan, but to sort of bring this into one complete document for master planning into the future beyond even 10 years will be extremely helpful in our planning process. We also, this was all through the 2022 grant cycle through the Division of Water Infrastructure. We also were awarded a $9 million grant through ARPA funds, state ARPA funds, for the Sanford Water Expansion Project to go towards our share of that project. And additionally, we were awarded a $20 million low interest rate loan towards that project. If you'll recall, in 2021, we received or were awarded a $15 million low interest rate loan at 1.2%. And now we've secured an additional $20 million. Mike and our consultants with Hayes and Sawyer, I believe, were instrumental in helping us advance those applications and finding success with that. So I just want to recognize those achievements there. And in addition to that, the most recently adopted state budget included a $2 million appropriation towards that project for both Holly Springs and the town of Fuquay-Varina, $1 million apiece. So that's adding some additional funds to it. So we're beginning to chip away at this mountain of costs that we're facing with these very expensive utility infrastructure projects. Of course, those that I just mentioned are water only, so we still have the sewer side to give focus to as well, but we're trying to chip away at that as well. Our planning department is in the process of conducting interviews for the development liaison position, going to be an extremely important position in our organization, so we're looking to find the right fit for that. Just some additional updates. Mayor Massengale and I, and he may wish to provide a little more comment later on, we had what I thought was a very productive meeting with the school superintendent and two of our school board members, the chair, Lindsay McHaffey, and then also Monica Johnson-Hostler, our district representative on the school board. A lot of different subjects, but primarily the purpose of the meeting was to get an update from them on where they are with their plans for the Fuquay-Varina Middle School. You know, eventually there'll be under construction in a not so distant future on the new middle school, and we certainly have an interest as to what goes into this other campus and site. They aren't overly advanced in their thought process yet, but they are beginning to ramp that up, and I do believe in the coming months they will probably reach out, or they plan to reach out to our community and community stakeholders to try to get some public input involvement on how best that facility should be utilized. But we bounced around a number of different ideas, some of which were discussed with the town board about 2 years ago when the school system came and presented us with the topic because of the plans for the new middle school, and some of which are sort of new ideas and thoughts that they are bouncing around at the district level. So a productive meeting, and we also spent some time talking about the pedestrian master plan because, again, walkable community, walkable to schools is important to us. So we had some dialogue and conversation around those topics as well. In addition, and again, it's been a couple weeks since we've had a board meeting, so I'm going to try to hit on some of these things. The mayor, myself, Assistant Manager Seymour, and some others from our staff had a meeting at the North Carolina Legislature last week. This was at the invitation of Representative Perret, and at the request of the North Carolina Realtors Association and the North Carolina Home Builders Association. It was Fuquay-Varina and the town of Holly Springs that attended this meeting. From our staff, Pam Davison, Mike Wagner, and Matt Poling, 3 of our departments in our development services side of the house, attended the meeting as well. And the topics were primarily around the subject of attainable and workforce housing, as well as the school transportation legislation that was approved several years ago with regards to what schools do, or more importantly, do not have to do with regards to transportation improvements when new schools are built. So we had some dialogue around that as well. But it was a productive meeting, and I think that while certainly there were no silver bullets or answers that were necessarily resolved or solved at this meeting, it got some good constructive dialogue and discussion going, which I think is important and is needed, and set the tone for future conversations as well around these topics. So a good first meeting, and I think we'll probably end up having another one in the future. Since our last town board meeting, we had what I thought was a very successful and nice ice cream social event in our community. I think the community seemed to really enjoy it. It was well attended. And it wasn't too terribly hot. It was warm, but it wasn't too terribly hot. You could eat your ice cream before it melted in your hands, so that was good. The mayor and I have also, since our last board meeting, met with Mark Noble with Aviator to get an update on his plans for both the new brewery that he's building, as well as some of the other properties that he owns here in town, and how we can move forward with advancing improvements on those as well. So it was a productive meeting. Mark Matthews, our assistant manager to my right here, since our last board meeting, attended his first session of the Public Executive Leadership Academy at the UNC School of Government. It's multiple sessions aimed at honing in the schools of providing good public executive service to the community. And so this is a course that I attended last year. Mark's attending this year. Perhaps Assistant Manager Seymour will attend in the future as well, and it's good to help advance our professional development skills. And finally, I will say that our interbasin transfer process is advancing along. This is a long process now. It's not going to be an overnight thing, but we have begun sort of the next stage, next phase of that process, and we'll hopefully kind of keep that ball rolling so that a year from now, when we may be ready to be bidding construction on the water plant, we have the interbasin transfer issue resolved. That would be the goal, and so we are making positive advancements with that as well. Let's see, I think I've hit on most of this. A couple things that are in your agenda materials. The project status report for August of 2022. Familiarize yourself with that if you haven't already, because there's a lot of projects on there. The town board adopted a fiscal year 23 budget, so that list got longer with the adoption of that budget, but we're beginning to check boxes and chip away. The quarterly report for the town's services is provided in your agenda materials as well, and everything is trending and looking very positive for how the fiscal year 22 is wrapped up and how fiscal year 23 is beginning. National Night Out Against Crime is tomorrow evening from 5 to 7 p.m. at the Fuquay-Varina Police Department. It's also the open house for the police department, so we're excited about the community hopefully coming out. 8? Yes, all right. 5 to 8 p.m.? Yes, all right. I don't want to shortchange it by an hour. 5 to 8 p.m. Hot dogs, sweet treats, beverage. Oh, a dunking booth. Okay. All right. So we've got some incentive.
Day too.
Who's in the dump?
We've got some incentive for the community to come out, right? dunk a cop. Yes. Okay. Oh my goodness. So even more incentive. Photos to be taken. So hopefully the community will come out and enjoy that event with our law enforcement here in our community. I mentioned the Ncdot public meeting on the operational improvements at Hilltop Needmore, Air Park, Hilltop Road, that conglomeration of intersection. Coffee with a Cop, assuming that all certificates of occupancies are issued, will be at the Chick-fil-A, back open again on Main Street on Tuesday, September 6th 9 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. We'll have our first concert of the fall series, Follow Me to Fuquay-Varina concert series, on September 8th from 6:30 to 9:30 p.m. At Centennial Park. And lastly, I will just remind the board, I think you all should have received an email this afternoon, but I'll remind the board, 8 a.m. tomorrow morning in this room, we will begin diversity training for the elected officials, for administration, for department head level positions in the organization. And it'll be an all-day course. We will take some breaks in between the day just to stretch our legs and whatnot. We'll have lunch about noon. We're going to learn about implicit bias and how that affects our view on the world and our decision making. And so, looking forward to that training tomorrow at 8 a.m. And when it's complete, you can go right over and try to dunk a cop in a toilet bowl. And Mr. Mayor, that concludes and wraps up my comments to the board. I'm happy to answer any questions that the board members may have.
Thank you. I know we do have a closed session tonight.
We do.
too. Commissioner Gardner, any comments?
Yes. I was excited about your proclamation for the growers market, and a reminder that we did start out primarily as an agrarian agricultural community here, and the big event used to be, I think, Farmers Day it was called, in the fall when everybody harvested their crops. So it is, I'm glad to see us recognizing our farmers market. And having had personal experience with the issue of suicide in my own family, I'm really grateful for the service of our officers in that area. And I commend Officer Wrench for her just amazing example of what that service can mean to those in our community who are facing those issues, either as family or as individuals who are suffering. So that was a very exciting thing. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Gardner. Officer Wrench, greatly recognized today and making a difference in our community along with many of our others in our community today too. Commissioner Harris, any comments?
Just to piggyback off what Commissioner Gardner said, and I think we are exceptionally fortunate to have Officer Wrench, as well as the awareness of our police department in regards to the challenges when they have to answer a call and address the issue of mental illness. I think that that's one of the biggest challenges for a police officer in regards to how to respond to those situations, and to have an officer who is sensitized enough to look at those kinds of issues and then to move appropriately to de-escalate those kinds of issues. I think we're just so fortunate to have that. And the reason I say that is that in my professional life, I used to, at the state level, oversee a program that was called the Social Work Law Enforcement Project. And the project was designed to do similarly what we talked about tonight. Whenever there is a crisis, that there would be a partnership between law enforcement and a social worker who would represent the mental health side when there was a mental health issue. So I'm just elated to see that we have that here on our staff and in our department. I think that is one of the jewels that we need to continue to grow here in the department, because as we move forward, I see that being one of the biggest challenges for officers on a daily basis. So again, my thanks go to Officer Wrench. Thank you.
Just one more thing. The the attention that our town and particularly the organization here in town that has sponsored in the past the suicide prevention walk in September. That event has, as I understand, raised awareness and helped provide funding for some of the training that has gone for our police officers, I think, over the years. So I think that particularly Dee and Ray O'Brien and the other volunteers who have participated with that get a lot of credit for bringing attention to that issue in our community. And I'm grateful for what that has done, because that event is transitioning a little bit this year and will be a little different, I think. So, but for what it's done these years that we've had it, I think we see some of the benefit here tonight.
I agree.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner Harris.
You all.
Commissioner Haynes, any comments?
Definitely enjoyed the ice cream social. Able to meet a lot of new citizens, a lot of new church plants that are coming into the town of Fuquay-Varina, so that was enjoyable to meet those different people, and so that's always enjoyable, just meeting different people. Definitely, as hearing those numbers from Parks and Recreation, it's just good to hear that. Being in the midst of the beginnings of the Parks and Recreation Athletic Department, when many said it wouldn't work, we see that it's working and it's continuing to grow. So just to see that now, and even with other people who are still doing the more travel side and everything, but it's still all working out for everybody. So just to see that happen and we're still continuing to grow is just amazing. Also, another part to the growers market, I think a week or two ago, they partnered with Meals on Wheels to provide vouchers for our seniors, which is a very good program, and they're continuing to have these collaborations with different organizations in Wake County, and to partner to be able to help like SNAP and EBT and different things like that. So it's good that the growers market is expanding to the point where they're being able to meet the needs of our community, who are oftentimes can't afford fresh produce and different things. So especially our senior population, where continue to get in a conversation about how we can help our senior population who are on fixed incomes, make sure they're meeting their needs with property taxes rate rising and different things like that. So just hearing those where they have those opportunities to be able to still get fresh produce and food is a great thing. And you know, as always, just thank the whole town staff from the top to the bottom for all you do. You know, you never can say that enough. You make our job a whole lot easier. So we definitely thank each and every one of you for all you do. I try to thank as many people as possible every time I see them, because even at the ice cream social, we have a staff that doesn't stay in the back, but they're also out there interacting with our citizens and having a great time, and the citizens are knowing their name and they want to know about the different staff members. So it's just enjoyable to be able to work with work alongside a great staff. So just thank you for that.
I agree. Good point. Commissioner Haynes. Commissioner Watson, any comments?
Just a couple. When is the food distribution for August for Pine Acres? I put you on the spot, I'm sorry.
I don't know the exact date, but it's always
like
the second and fourth
week.
Saturday. And to piggyback off that real quick, we did get funding from Wake County to continue being a Wake County food hub all the way through next June. We were going to actually close and go down to once a month, but Wake County Board of Commissioners stepped up and they funded all 6 Wake County food hub sites going through June of next year, and our numbers have continued to increase. So we're definitely thankful for that.
That's very good. It is a great resource that we have here in town. I'm very appreciative of that. I'm looking forward to tomorrow night for National Night Out. I was thinking I was missing on my calendar Coffee with a Cop, so I was messaging Officer Look, and everyone was like, where's my Coffee with a Cop? But I forgot it was being replaced with National Night Out, so I'm excited for that tomorrow evening, so I hope everyone can come out and that. Along with that, I wanted to mention the Citizens Academy, which I went through this last year. I know Commissioner Haynes has gone through it. It is a great resource that our police department does for our citizens. It's a what, 13 weeks, 11-week course? Is it 10? It seemed like way longer than that. That is a great resource. I learned in it about the CIT program and all that it, learned about everything, but specifically that one caught my attention. And then tonight, the story that was told was very touching and shows what our officers go through that we don't know about on the daily basis. Hearing that story was really touching. I have family that has mental illness and has had issues with suicide, so I appreciate the extra training that y'all go through to deal with those situations and help de-escalate and make them a positive outcome for the family, for y'all, especially too. So I just want to thank Officer Wrench. I know she left, but let her know that we all appreciate and her award, and then all that y'all do on every day that we don't see and don't get to recognize. So that's all I have tonight, Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner Watson. Mayor Pro Tem Smith, any comments?
Real briefly, Mr. Mayor, on July 18th, I represented our town at a ribbon cutting with Oakland Springs Brewery over on Broad Street in Varina, and it was also kind of a piggyback event with Chicago J hot dogs. And the neat thing about this was, that was just noteworthy to me, is that this was not really a new business opening, it was an expansion of an existing business here in Fuquay-Varina. The Oakland Springs Brewery has a brewery up on North Main Street, but now they've grown to the point they have opened their own place on Broad Street over there. And at the same time, Chicago J's Hot Dogs is a food truck. But they partner with different businesses to help them on special events. And he told me his business has grown, that he's added another truck, added new employees, and he's looking at expanding his business. So there was a couple things there, just seeing existing businesses growing to the point they're opening another location in our town. And they were very braggadocious, for lack of a better word, on dealing with Fuquay-Varina versus other towns that I won't call their names. But they were they actually made a comparison of how easy it was for them to expand here in Fuquay-Varina. But I just thought it was neat how two businesses are partnering, they're both growing, they're partnering with each other and helping each other grow. And it was kind of neat, they said they did it on the handshake. It was just kind of neat to see that. We had a good time over there, talking with them about their business plan and how they're growing. And that's all I got. I just thought it was a pretty neat event to see a business just kind of double itself in just a few years here. And I thought it was
I have
pretty
two
cool.
locations, and both of them in Fuquay-Varina. We
That's
like
pretty
that
good.
too.
That's all I got.
Thank you. This week, some along our, many of our kids and citizens' kids in our community are attending our Parks and Rec camp, and so I know that Parks and Rec has been very busy. I don't see Jonathan here tonight. I know he's got a conflict, but I've been very busy with those kids, and those kids have really enjoyed that. So I encourage anybody else out here, children, to be involved with that. And I am having lunch with all the kids on Friday this week, so that's going to be an exciting day with those kids too. And recently, I had a meeting with the mayor of Holly Springs and mayor of Apex, and we're working on a tri-town event, and so I'll be bringing that here to the board here in the future. Managers are talking and chatting of a plan next year, something great that can really work good between our three towns. And so the purpose of me telling you that is a lot of these meetings are working on collaboration and partnering with our surrounding communities to help us benefit and all work together and get things done. Manager mentioned earlier about us going to a meeting for at a general assembly, and part of that was a lot of that discussion was about workforce housing, attainable housing, and also affordable housing, and that was also with Holly Springs at the same time, and Apex has attended that in the past about how we can work together to be able to achieve some of these items that we're looking for in our community. And another one was the school board meeting, as Adam mentioned earlier, touched on, said I'd speak in regards to that. As we know here, Fuquay Middle School about 3 years ago made the decision to build another school, a new middle school in town. And as you remember, this whole board supported that, was excited for a new school to be built, but also said we did not want a vacant, abandoned building left in downtown also. And so we put the pressure on them. We met with our two school board members that represent us here, and then also the superintendent and put a pressure on them about ideas of what could happen there and what we'd like to see and their process of getting something done there and how we understand it may be a short transition period, as we all understand, for any building that has to be updated for a new use, but not just sit there and vacate and continue to go downhill after they move out in a couple of years. And so that message was well delivered and well understood, and I believe they fully understood that. Several comments were made about the ice cream social and the number of, it's located in our Mineral Spring Park, and our Parks and Rec Department, along with many other departments within our town, worked hard on that, and so I want to recognize all the departments that were involved with that. You had the fire department and the Junior Women's Club giving out water, a nonprofit group giving out water and lemonade and drinks right there. Police department was there too, keeping everybody safe. Streets was there. Public Works was there from a trash standpoint. It was and the many ones of our staff volunteered their time just to be there and help out. And so there's a lot of collaboration across all departments right there. And that's why we continue to mention our different events we have in town, that they're often known as Hallmark family events. And I mentioned that on that Sunday because it is, and that's what our citizens love. And I received multiple emails from citizens afterward how much they enjoy that and want to make sure we keep doing that event here in Fuquay-Varina. And so it really is a good job. I have no further comments. I know we have a closed session. I entertain a motion for closed session.
To 143-318-11A3, attorney-client privilege, A4, economic development, A5, property acquisition.
So moved.
We have a motion. We have a second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We're going to take a 5-minute recess long enough to clear the room for closed. We'll jump right into it. Thank you.